And going back to one of our top stories this morning, the Independent Electoral Court has confirmed the IEC's decision that the NFP is disqualified from contesting polls on August the 3rd. The NFP appeared at the Electoral Court in Bloemfontein on Friday, where it challenged the IEC's decision to disqualify it from the local government elections after it failed to pay the 400,000 rand deposit before the payment deadline. IEC says the court made its ruling known on Saturday. Parties had to submit their candidate lists and pay their deposit by the 2nd of June. Those who failed to meet the deadline were immediately disqualified from taking part in the elections. Chief Electoral Officer Msoto Mopya said the NFP could possibly turn to higher courts. Party spokesperson Sabelo Segudu says the party hasn't been informed of the decision. Segudu says the party will consult its lawyers before issuing a statement later on. And joining us live on the phone line is our ANN7 assignment editor, Cecilia Russell. Cecilia, can you confirm the story, and also are there any options left for the NFP now?
Yes, I can confirm the story. I spoke to the IEC earlier. They said that the judgment was out on Saturday. And as I understand it, neither at the moment, the IEC or nor the NFP have actually read the judgment. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual judgment says. But we'll be bring that to you later in the day. I think that there may be options for them. Obviously, the Electoral Court is only one, is a lower court, and they could go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and they could even go to the Constitutional Court. However, time is short, and they're going to have to work very quickly if they're going to do this. And whether it is because of an administrative error that they get excluded from the elections, whether they'd be able to argue that this is a constitutional matter if they had to take it, up further, would be an interesting one. From what we can gather, even though this party is an interesting party and has a fair amount of support, I think that it won, for example, in 2011. It was really formed really very, very close to the elections. It won 644,917 votes and has 200 councillors, and many of the smaller councils in KwaZulu-Natal, it is the kingmaker between the IFP and the ANC. So what is going to happen in KwaZulu-Natal if this party doesn't contest the elections is a kind of a rebalancing of political forces. It will be very interesting. It will be very interesting to watch.
Very interesting indeed. Now, do you believe that the Constitutional Court will entertain this matter, as it was reported previously that they did in fact tell them to go to the Electoral Court and that it wasn't necessarily a constitutional matter at the time?
Well, I mean, that's very difficult to say. They'd have to find a constitutional principle. And one of the principles in our constitution is around the fairness and freeness of elections and access and giving people access to the to be able to campaign and to be able to contest elections, etc., etc. So there could be a constitutional principle that they would have to discuss, but I'm not sure exactly how they would be able to frame this, because they're not being excluded because they're not a party that is recognized by the IEC. They're not being excluded by the IEC for any reason except that they failed to pay their deposit on time. Now, if you look at the IEC and you look at the number of political parties in the country that are registered, I mean, I think there's, I don't know how many, lots and lots. But, I have an idea that there's more than 100 political parties that are registered with the IEC. So the IEC doesn't make assumptions on the fact that you are registered, that you're going to contest elections. And many of these parties only contest maybe one or two wards or in one or two local governments, etc., etc. So the IEC, is not there to say to people, look, you've missed the deadline, don't you think you should hurry up with your application, aren't you going to enter, etc., etc. It's really up to the political party to make sure that it is entered. So if it can explain its own administrative mess in a constitutional way, and how this will, maybe affect its followers and people who need to, who vote for it, and how it can how it will affect the freeness and the fairness of the elections, then maybe it will have an argument.
Cecilia Russell, thank you so much for that update there. That was the ANN7 assignment editor, Cecilia Russell, talking about the fact that the Electoral Court has gone with the same decision as the IEC and has disqualified the NFP from participating in the elections.